all, and welcome to Spill the Tea. This is the first episode of my podcast, soon to be, but these are going to be fortnightly episodes where we are going to be normalizing all conversations, okay? I see so much and I hear so much out there of people being shamed and being judged and being embarrassed about having conversations that are so normal to have about sex, love, relationships, feminism, masculinity, racism, religion, gender inequalities, all of these things that are so prevalent in our society and they're a part of our everyday life. And there's some reason though that we aren't allowed to talk about them or that we feel like we can't talk about them. And I want to have this place, to Spill the Tea, as a place to hold everyone in this space and allow those conversations to start. So please like, comment, share. Commenting is best as well, just to start that conversation going. I will be having conversations with everyday people, really delving into all kinds of topics that I think everyone will find really, really interesting and will find so relevant. Okay, so please like, share. This is going to be across whatever platform you're currently watching this on now. It's going to be on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, soon to be on TikTok, and also soon to be a podcast as well. You will be able to find on Spotify and iTunes. So keep a lookout for all of those, but I will definitely be keeping you posted on that. I want to kick this off by really diving into something that I think is really kind of juicy, and that is talking about sex drive. So when I talk about sex drive, I'm talking about your libido, okay? So it's really that want and desire mentally and physically for sex. So for intimacy, sexual connection with a partner that you're attracted to. And I think that I started polls across Instagram and Facebook, really diving into this with you guys, and the consensus was quite interesting actually. And I want to kind of kick it off first before I go into that, is by starting this a little bit differently. So I did read a lot of studies about this, so about what the ideas were that who had a higher sex drive. And funnily enough, something that I found really interesting was that it was very much based on clinical studies, and there was something in it that wasn't really sitting right for me, because I'm looking at it from more of a society point of view with what we're dealing with at the present now, and really ideas and stories that have been told and passed down and things that we've been conditioned to believe and feel. So I'm going to start it off from this point of view, and this will be the direction that we're going with this conversation. So as a woman, there is an idea that we have less sex, or that we want less sex. There's an idea that we're shamed and we're judged and we're embarrassed to ask for more sex, to admitting that we're having sex, or having a lot of sex, whether that be with the partner that we're with, or whether that be with strangers, whether that be with people, if we're single, any kind of connection. There's an idea as a female that we're either less inclined to want sex, or that there's an idea that if we do want sex, that if it's outside of a relationship, we're a slut, we're a whore, all of those things. And that if we're in a relationship, there can be some shaming and some judging coming from that point of that point too. So I don't rule that out. However, there is an idea sometimes as well as a woman that we can't ask for sex because, it's the man's job. And then looking at this from a male's point of view, there's this idea that all men want sex. All they want from us is sex. They don't want anything else from us. It's just that, okay? There's an idea for men that they want the most sex, that they're the ones that initiate sex, and they're the ones that are having the most sex. So the way that I see this is on both sides of the spectrum, and it blows my mind, because I say, what about the other people though? What about the men that aren't that interested in having a lot of sex? What about the men that don't want to live up to this expectation that that's what it takes to make them be a man? What about the women that are definitely not sluts, are definitely not whores? They're just women. They're just people, and they're wanting to have sex. What about those people? And then I just see both sides of the plane, and it boggles my mind that this is still a thing even now into this day. And with everything that we're so open to and expressed to, and then this is still a thing where, as well as this, you know, like, let's talk about numbers and let's talk about the number of people that everyone slept with, you know, there's an idea that women should have slept with less people than men, and that men should be sleeping with more people than women, okay? I think to some degree people omit on both sides of it. I think men can be guilty of omitting to either more or less people, just as women are usually guilty of just omitting to less. Because we'll tell our girlfriends how many people we've actually slept with, but do you tell the people that you're dating? Do you tell the people that you're interested in? Do you actually tell them your number, or do you omit it? Okay? And for men, do you tell your boys about all the people that you have or haven't slept with? You know, are you honest about those numbers? And if you have slept with a lot of people too, you know, do you do it because you'd like to? And if you do, fucking good on you. But do you do it as well because there's just an idea that you should have a bigger number? And then for the men that don't have that bigger number as other people, you know, do you admit those to people? Do you kind of like make your number a little higher? Or do you feel ashamed because your number isn't that high when you shouldn't feel ashamed of that at all? And I just think it's a really interesting conversation to spark and to think about. And I posted on the polls as well. So I did, so like who do we think has a higher sex drive, men or women? To be fair, it actually was women that won out on that one. The difference was so 62% to the rest of the men. So I actually found this one really interesting because a lot of men actually commented that they thought that women had a higher sex drive. But then I asked the question of who do they think is having more sex, and the winners of that were men. So maybe winner is a poor choice of words, but that's what you guys voted. And when I did another post the other day as well, so we were talking about how many times, what is your number to like how much you would like to be having sex. And then what you guys mostly voted on as well for that was this one actually got me. I found this one really, really interesting. So women actually were the winners in this one, and they were saying that they would love to have sex multiple times a day. It was the men that were saying daily, and then it was a mixture between men and women saying a few times a week. I didn't have anyone say that it would be they wanted less than a few times a week. So there could still be those people, and there is nothing wrong with that if you are one of them. But that was just a really interesting consensus for the two. And the thing that I want to mostly take away from this with you guys is that it's okay, whatever it is for you. So I think the biggest thing to ask yourself is like, do you have a high sex drive? Do you have a low sex drive? How much would you like to be having sex? How often are you having sex? And I think that it's in knowing that in yourself, and then knowing, okay, this is my truth. This is me. This is a need for me. This is a desire, and just accepting and knowing that it's okay. Because I just think that it's ridiculous that we're shamed for something that physically and mentally we are feeling and we want in our bodies. And I want to share an experience with you guys, and you know, being open and starting conversations. I have a higher sex drive, and I have been very open about that with my, like, at the moment. Only recently though have I been open about that. I felt really ashamed of being open about that in the past. I think I had the idea that it wasn't okay. And I always had the idea that it was men that had to initiate sex. Because, you know, as a woman, you know, I could do it, but I feel like I was always ashamed to do it. So I just kind of went through, I was just like, I'm just not going to do it. And then I think that becomes the idea that we're then caught up in this pattern of doing so, but without asking for what it is that we truly, truly want. And I have a high sex drive, but with emotional connection. And I don't do one without the other. And that is, for me, my truth. From what I know, from my past, from what I've learned. And I think something that really stood out for me as well was when it was like a couple years out of high school. I think I was like 19. And was at a friend's house, and we were just like playing drinking games. And there was never have I ever slept with like more than like 3 people, and I drank. And the first thing that was said, one of the girls at the table there, she looked like sideways at me and she said, "Ew." And I distinctly remember that moment because, firstly, it was the first time that I was outwardly shamed. Secondly, I was surprised because I was shamed by a woman. And I think for women, and I feel like I can say this openly, when we share I feel like as a woman, we are more likely to share intimacy and like stories and things like that with our girlfriends. I hope that men do the same, and I hope you have those people there with you too. But I know as a woman that I'm very open in sharing that with my friends. And there's not really too much that we kind of hold back from each other within reason. And I remember that moment because that really stuck to me there, because I was like, I'm being judged for having a number that at the time was more than 3. And I remember just thinking like, why I was very much like, fuck you, because I just thought, why are you judging me? Like, it was my decision. It's my body. If anyone's going to judge anyone here, it should be me. But no, there's an idea, first of all, on her end, that at that age, you shouldn't have a number higher than 3 because there's something wrong with that. And then second of all, there's a thing on my end where I was getting angry with someone for not understanding something that has nothing to do with them. So in both, like, there's two sides to everything. And I definitely do see that now. But at the time, I was like, that's not cool. And I still don't believe that it's cool to judge each other. But I understand where it comes from. It comes from a society. It comes from growing up thinking that that's the way that it should be, that we shouldn't be having a lot of sex at what I suppose could be perceived as a young age. There's the idea we need to stop shaming each other. We need to stop judging each other. We need to understand that we don't know the backstory as to the reason as to why someone is doing and being the way that they are. And we don't even know that they have to have a reason to be doing the things that they are doing. But what we do need to know is that everything anyone is doing is okay, because it is their journey, it's their story. And who are we to then sit there and be like, I don't think you should be doing that? Especially around things that lack sex, something that is so natural to us. And there is no shame in wanting less sex, and there is no shame in wanting more sex. And I think especially as a woman, I just want to kind of speak out for everyone there and be like, hell yes, you can ask for more sex. Hell yes, you can initiate it. Yes, you can have casual sex. Yes, you can only have sex with people in relationships. I think you need to look at how you're feeling and what you want to put behind that. But I just think that it's your decision, your body, your choice. I think it's about how you feel in yourself. And as long as you are honoring every single part of yourself in those moments, there is nothing wrong with that. And I think for the side of men, I believe that it works that way for them too. There's no shame in wanting less or in wanting more. There's no shame in asking for what it is that you want. The whole idea of this, though, is that we find partners, is that we find connections where we can fully express that to them and not be shamed and not be judged. And when we can have these open conversations with like friends and people that we meet and not feel like, it's such a big deal to speak out about this, I feel like even the idea of just being like, I have a high sex drive, people like, or someone being like, I have a low sex drive, And I think the way, like, in all honesty, what I honestly believe is that the idea is that, especially as a woman, it should be low, and especially the men, it should be high. What about the people that aren't on both sides of that? What about the other people on the other side of that? The men that are like, I have a low sex drive, and the women that are saying, mine's really fucking high. I just think that sex especially has just become such a thing that we just don't talk about it. That we're scared to talk about it. I hear a lot of the time, people are like, it's a private thing, and I completely understand that. But it's also something that's so natural that everyone's doing, and not everyone is doing, but it's something that just is like, it comes, like, even though you may not be doing it, it's something that comes natural to us. For most people, it's a want and it's a need, and for others, it isn't. But why are we denying ourselves the opportunity to speak up about it? And why are we judging and shaming others for wanting to do the same? And I think that judging and that shaming of other people, and even on doing that on ourselves, is causing us to then enter into connections and enter into relationships with people, and we're afraid to ask for what we want. Like, this just doesn't affect, Joe Blow who walks down the street and then, I judged him for something that he did. No, like, that judgment that 1 second, that split second of judgment that I passed on to him in that second that he said something about sleeping with someone and I judged him for that, he takes that with him. Whether he chooses to or not, okay, I've passed on something, a story to him that's just ingrained in him what he already knows to be true. But it's not. And that is the whole thing that we are trying to unravel here, okay? So I'm not saying that it's your fault that people feel a certain way. And I'm not saying that you have the responsibility of taking on everyone's, shit. But what I am saying is that you have a responsibility to yourself, I feel, to be as open as possible. Because once you do that, you rewrite stories for yourself. You rewrite the story of what sex means to you, of what sex gets to be for you in the future. I think acknowledging the fact that, like, you love sex or you hate sex, okay? How can we not talk to people about that? How can that not be something you talk to partners about? I'd be interested as well to hear from everyone, because I think as well, like, when I was reading people voting on the polls and things like that as well, the one thing that I found really interesting was, like, I wonder where this story came from. Like, who gave you that idea that men have a higher sex drive, that women have a higher sex drive? At this stage, I just have to assume it's what you learned growing up, and it's what you've learned in past experiences and past relationships. I have to assume that. And so I question then, from there, I say, okay, if that's the story that you know, if that's what you've learned, are you wanting to change that up? Aren't you wanting to be more open? What if being more open meant that the relationship that you're in can just deepen because you're both being so honest and both so raw and vulnerable about what it is that you really want? What if you are actually wanting, casual sex, and then you're finding now partners that you can reach out to, and you're having more confidence in actually asking and being vocal about wanting that? I think we just have to stop the shaming, stop the judging, stop the embarrassment side of things. And we just need to fucking talk about it, okay? I remember having so much fear and so much, it wasn't shame actually. I remember I had a lot of fear about having that conversation recently about my number, but also about how much I like to be having sex. And I remember just being scared. And I was scared because it was the first time that I'd ever really spoken up about it. And I was scared because I was scared that I was going to be met with rejection, but I knew in myself that I refused to ever lie about it again. I refuse to omit and dull my number. I refuse to do that. I will not do that anymore. If anyone outrightly asks me, I will tell you, and I damn right will not be ashamed to tell you. And whatever you take away from that, from the number that I give you, that's your decision then. And I think that's how we really have to approach things, is that I think that, and I believe that it's scary. It's scary being vulnerable, okay? Like, don't fucking get me wrong there. But there's so much release in it, because the second that you do that, you feel so much in your power. You feel completely in yourself, because you know that you are completely honoring yourself. And there's something really cool that happens when you say, I'm not going to lie about shit anymore, because you then stop judging and shaming yourself. Because it's one thing to be like, you know, to journal about it or to write about it or tell your friends, like, I'm not ashamed and I don't judge myself for this anymore. Put yourself in a situation then where you have to be raw and vulnerable about something with someone, and then they can walk out on you or they can reject you, okay? And then do it. That is when you need to do it. Because honoring yourself in those moments where you feel like you have something to lose is the biggest chance that you have to honor yourself. And I hold my hands up and I say that will be the best moment of your life, whether you are rejected or whether you are just held and like, yeah, that's cool. Okay? That is going to be the biggest, most liberating moment for yourself. So, to wrap up, I got a little philosophical, is that the right word? I bet someone's going to comment below and be like, it's not fucking philosophical, that's just words. But anyway, I feel like that got very philosophical or very deep or whatever. I don't even think that's how you say it, you know, whatever. I appreciate everyone who's still staying online, who's still watching this. I hope you have been commenting, liking, sharing. I'm going to be commenting below with you guys and engaging in conversations with you as well, and commenting on whatever it is that you've had to say. If anyone wants to DM me as well, please feel free to do that, and let's like have a conversation about something else that you feel like you want to be spoken about. And if you're nervous to talk about it, then like I'll do it for you. Simple as that. I do want people to take away something from this, and that is like, look at where that story for sex has come from for you. So the idea of like, if you're feeling shame and judgment around your sex drive, about how much you want sex or how much you're having sex or how much you're not, and you know, vice versa, but look at where that comes from, and then ask yourself, like, am I really gonna let that be the thing that molds and shapes my life forever now? Am I gonna let that be the reason that I don't go after what I want, that I don't ask for what I want? Is that the reason that I'm gonna be satisfied, or that I'm not gonna be satisfied? Fuck no. I'll answer that for you right now. Fuck no. Write your own story. And I think that is going to be like the best part about this. So thank you so much, everyone. I will be back in a fortnight with a new episode for you guys. And I will keep you all posted about what that's going to be. Bye.